Millions of people are about to fly to Mexico City for the World Cup, but here's what we think is going to happen. A lot of them are going to arrive for football and leave completely obsessed with Mexico City itself, because this place is electric. The food, the art, the rooftop bars, the markets, the music echoing through the streets at night. Neighborhoods feel like Europe one minute and pure Mexico the next. And somehow, despite being one of the biggest cities on Earth, Mexico City still feels deeply human. So whether you're coming for the World Cup or just wondering why everyone suddenly has Mexico City on their radar, here is the perfect 3-day Mexico City itinerary to keep you busy when you're not watching the World Cup. Let's start with the area where we stayed, Paseo de la Reforma, where the Angel of Independence dominates the square. For first-time visitors, this is one of the best places to base yourself because you are close to the park, the neighborhoods of Roma, Condesa, Polanco, and great restaurants, museums, rooftop bars, and one of the most iconic avenues in the city.
Mexico City is incredible.
You know, I really knew that it would be modern. It's a huge city, the third largest in the world. But for some reason, I didn't really think it would compete with the cities of Asia. And you know what? It does. It is just so modern, skyscrapers everywhere, and it's so clean. I love it.
It's a beautiful street, big, wide, great walking street, lots of cool art displays. A good place to spend an afternoon strolling.
One of the best ways to start your mornings in Mexico City is with a stroll down Paseo de la Reforma. This grand boulevard cuts through the city and is lined with monuments, fountains, skyscrapers, roundabouts, and some surprisingly beautiful green spaces. So you would see people jogging, walking their dogs, cyclists everywhere, and then every few blocks there's something iconic. The Angel of Independence is the main attraction, but there are many giant statues, monuments, and old architecture squeezed between the sleek hotels. From Reforma, we made our way towards the historic center because day one in Mexico City really has to begin with the old heart of Mexico City.
Our next stop on our walking tour is the Monument of Revolution, and this is a massive public square.
This is where you start to understand just how deep the history here actually goes. The historic center is enormous. Huge plazas, massive cathedrals, layers of Spanish colonial architecture built literally on top of ancient Aztec ruins. The Zócalo is one of the largest public squares in the world, and standing here really gives you a perspective of how important this city has been for centuries. The giant Mexican flag in the middle is surrounded by the cathedral, government buildings, museums, and ruins. There's a lot packed into this one area, and it's a great place to grab lunch. The Metropolitan Cathedral is one of the oldest and largest cathedrals in the Americas. Entry is free, but donations are appreciated, and it usually opens at 8 a.m. Right beside it is the National Palace. It's home to the Diego Rivera murals. Access rules can change depending on government activity, so we did not get to go in, so definitely check current opening times before you go. Then head over to Templo Mayor, which is one of the most important archaeological sites in the city, where there are ruins of the ancient Aztec capital that existed before the Spanish conquest. Entry is usually around 100 pesos and includes both the ruins and the museum.
We're in the old post office here in Mexico City, and look, it's still functioning. What do you go?
The Palacio Postal, also known as the Old Post Office, honestly might be one of the most beautiful buildings in the entire city. From the outside, it just looks like another grand historic building, but the second you walk inside, it feels like you've stepped into a European palace. Gold railings, intricate ironwork, and carved ceilings. Best of all, it's either completely free to enter, or you could pay 50 pesos to access certain upper sections depending on the day and exhibits. It's also perfectly located beside the Palacio de Bellas Artes, so you can easily combine both in the same visit.
The Palace of Fine Arts is impressive from outside, but make sure you come inside. Gosh, the marble walls, it's so incredible. And then wait and feel, you see the dome ceiling.
After spending the afternoon exploring the historic center, this is where we recommend switching gears completely and heading over to Polanco for the evening. Getting around Mexico City is easy. We got around using Ubers and they were very affordable, but traffic can be heavy, so it can take a while. Polanco is known as the Rodeo Drive of Mexico City, where high-end shoppers can get Louis Vuitton, Cartier, and Gucci. But we went for the dinner and the cocktails. Make sure you have tacos. We tried to have a taco every day in Mexico City. Day 2 is all about Chapultepec Park, which honestly feels more like an entire city inside a park. It's important to know that before you plan your itinerary, most museums here are closed on Mondays, including the Castle and the Anthropology Museum. So if you're coming for the World Cup and organizing your days, do not schedule Chapultepec on a Monday. We started at the National Museum of Anthropology, which is easily one of the best museums in the world, and we're not just joking here.
So everyone has told us that the Museum of Anthropology is the place to come.
So we're here to check it out. It's supposed to be one of the best in the world. Let's see.
Now that's cool.
So I would say the Museum of Anthropology here in Mexico City is definitely worth it. You could spend basically a whole day here if you wanted to. And for 100 Mexican pesos, you just can't beat the value.
This is not one of those museums where you glance around for 30 minutes and leave. You need at least 2 to 3 hours. The museum opens Tuesday through Sunday at 9 a.m. and the current foreign entrance fee is just 200 pesos. This place has some of the most important artifacts in Mexico history, and you will actually go and see real ruins, tombs, and artifacts. After the museum, we walked uphill to Chapultepec Castle, which overlooks the city. And yes, this is a real castle in Mexico, which still feels weird to say out loud. The castle is open Tuesday through Sunday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and tickets are currently about 210 pesos for international visitors. The walk uphill takes about 15 to 20 minutes depending on your pace, so wear decent shoes because Mexico City sits at altitude and these hills can humble you pretty quickly. But note, no water is allowed in the castle, so make sure you drink it before you go inside. The views at the top are incredible. You get panoramic views over Reforma, the skyline, and the entire park. Inside, you'll find royal rooms, historical exhibits, gardens, murals, and balconies overlooking the city. After visiting Chapultepec Castle, don't rush out of the park right away because there's still a lot more to see. This is a massive park. There's a large lake where you can rent paddle boats. There's tree-lined walking paths, monuments, and food stands. Plus, you'll see artists, performers, and plenty of spaces just to sit for a bit and take a break from the city. This is also a great place to have a casual lunch between the Museum of Anthropology and the castle.
All right, so I'm here in Mexico City and I have to try this corn. I saw it. They slather it with mayonnaise, cheese, and chili peppers. Sounds kind of cool, but let's see how it tastes. Actually, it tastes really, really good. The mayonnaise and the chili peppers is a good contrast.
As the afternoon winds down, exit the park towards Reforma and make your way over to the rooftop bar at the Ritz-Carlton, Mexico City. Yes, this place is expensive, but honestly, the views are absolutely worth it. Come up to the Ritz-Carlton for a cocktail. Look at this, that's sherbet on top. We ordered 2 cocktails and a cheese plate and spent about $50 total. We surprisingly got a lot for our money. After the Ritz, you can go to the Sofitel, which is just a short walk down the street, because somehow the views even get better. This rooftop overlooks the Angel of Independence directly, and at night, Reforma lights up. We're at the top of the Sofitel, and there's the view of La Reforma right there. The nice thing from here is that you can easily walk between both hotels along Reforma, so it turns into a great rooftop hopping night without needing to deal with extra transportation. Once you're done with the rooftop cocktails, make your way toward the walking streets around Zona Rosa and Reforma for dinner and nightlife. This part of the city stays busy late into the evening with restaurants, bars, taco spots, patios, live music, nightclubs, and crowds everywhere.
I'm really digging the place that we chose, right in the heart of all the action.
We stayed at the Ambere 64, right in the heart of all the action. Make sure to ask for a room on the inside as it is quieter. It was walking distance to everywhere, and we would stay there again. I can see why a lot of business people stay at this hotel. Day 3 is where we slow things down a little and spend time exploring two of the most beautiful neighborhoods in Mexico City, Roma Norte and Condesa. These neighborhoods are just a 30-minute walk apart from each other, so it's easy to spend the morning with a coffee and walk through its tree-lined streets.
Well, make sure you take a walk through the Roma neighborhood. It's very funky, and you'll see a statue of this guy.
David?
After the intensity of the historic center and the massive scale of Chapultepec Park, this feels calmer, greener, and way more local. Grab a coffee and walk the tree-lined streets, enjoy some cafes, bakeries, bookstores, and cocktail bars. If you want a quick side trip from here, this is also a good day to hop on the metro and head south towards the Frida Kahlo Museum, also known as Casa Azul. This was Frida's home, and it's one of the most famous museums in the city. Just know ahead of time that a lot of people get caught off guard. Tickets often sell out in advance, so if you want to tour the house itself, book online early. Even if you don't go inside, the neighborhood of Coyoacán is still worth visiting for the markets, plazas, cafes. Another easy option if you want a more relaxed afternoon is heading over to the floating canal area with colorful boats, mariachi bands, and groups basically turning the canals into floating parties. But before you hop on the subway, make your way to a very cool spot for lunch. One of the most talked about taco spots in the world right now is El Califa de Leon. This tiny taco stand became the first taco stand in Mexico to receive a Michelin-Star.
Well, if you ever wanted to eat at a Michelin-Star restaurant, there is a food stall here in Mexico City that has 1 star. That's pretty awesome. I can't wait to try these tacos.
There's no fancy presentation, and it's not an overcomplicated menu. Just incredibly simple tacos done perfectly. Expect to spend maybe just a few dollars per taco and have cash on hand.
Well, it's a little out-of-the-way place that you would miss if you blinked.
But it's definitely worth it to come and find it here in Mexico City, even if you're staying at the Centro or the Old Town. Come on out here for a Michelin-Star taco.
And finally, your last night in Mexico City has got to be at a Lucha Libre match. Seriously, even if you think wrestling is not for you, go. This place is packed and full of so much energy. I recommend going at least an hour beforehand so you can enjoy the chaos outside.
The energy here is electric. It's a big party. The big shows are every Tuesday and Friday night.
There's masked acrobats, screaming fans, people flying out of the ring, dramatic entrances, and you have families cheering. Make sure to buy tickets in advance, and we have links to this and all of the tours that we recommended and places to stay in the description below. This extravaganza is the perfect way to end your 3 days exploring Mexico City. It gives you time to get used to the massive, chaotic city so you can walk around with confidence. If you're planning a World Cup trip, our biggest advice is simple. Don't treat Mexico City like a stopover between matches. Give yourself extra days here because this city deserves it. Come for the football, stay for the tacos. And if this video helped you plan your trip, make sure to hit subscribe because we've got a lot more travel guides coming from around the world. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.